I would be surprised if the gold price certainly isn't where it is or a few $100 higher than this in 6 to 12 months' time.
The gold price rally has been phenomenal to watch, but could gains be slowing on account of fears about the health of the US economy?
Well, it's a good question, Kirsten. I think if anybody really knew the answers to that, well, I don't think a lot of people have been trying over the years and no one really knows how to accurately predict the gold price. But I think there's enough uncertainty both in the financial markets around the world and also geopolitically that there's plenty of very good, strong reasons. Well, I'm not sure whether they're good reasons, but they're very strong reasons as to why the gold price will have more upward pressure on it than anything suggesting it might go down.
And so keeping that in mind, what have been gold miners' best options for growth during the past couple of years, both generally and for Regis?
Yeah, I think the temptation, it's interesting, strategies can take a different direction. Some companies may use the high gold price to lower their cut-off grades and increase their inventory of gold. That's a sound strategy in some respects, but what it does do is it generally increases the cost of gold, but certainly increases the volume you've got available to mine. Others, like our strategy at Regis, is to keep tight on our what we call our core ounces and make sure that we produce the core that we've always been planning to produce over the last in the last few years, but look for opportunistic ounces as well to add on top of that. Opportunistic ounces are ounces that, thanks to the high gold price, we can still make good money on it, but if the gold price drops, we can turn it off. So we try to run a dual strategy there, which is what you can do when you've got a number of different producing assets. Not quite so easy to do if you're a single source of gold in your asset, a single pit or underground.
Would Regis be considering acquiring the remainder of the Tropicana mine in WA, if not for the problems it's experiencing with the New South Wales McPhillamys project?
Look, we love the Tropicana, our share of the Tropicana assets, and I think we're working closely with Anglo to do everything that we can to extend its life. So we'll continue to do that with them as our joint venture partners, and they obviously manage it for us on a 70-30 split. So we just really like that asset and like to watch it continue to perform as it is. In terms of the McPhillamys project, I think that is something that, as I've mentioned before and on the presentation recently, that's probably a few more years out. So what we're really looking to do is to try and work through our options to get McPhillamys back into being approvable or buildable and permitted. But that's going to take us some time with the avenues we've got available to us.
How serious are the talks with Anglo Gold Ashanti over the remaining 70% stake in Tropicana?
Yeah, look, I think the rumour and innuendo of talks is just that. It's just, don't believe everything that you read in the press. But of course, we're always meeting and talking with Anglo because that's part of the joint venture. So we're always discussing how best to optimise that asset. But any other commentary about what might be happening is just that. It's just some market speculation. It's unfounded.
Considering it's a mine that's been operating for 4 years with the easy runs extracted, would Regis be considering acquiring the remaining 70%, if not for the high gold price?
No, well, that's a great hypothetical question. Really the situation for us is we do own 30% of it while the gold price is high, and we're very pleased with the way it's being operated, and it's still got a long runway in front of it. What Anglo's views are on what they want to do with that asset, I'm not privy to. We're just pleased to be able to own that 30%.
On the McPhillamys project and the Environment Minister's intervention last year, why is Regis persisting with an appeal despite declaring the project was no longer viable?
Yeah, so what we said at the time was that thanks to as a result of the Minister's decision over the Section 10, which was over a limited area of the project. So that project actually had been approved by the ministers, another department of the ministers at the time that administers the EPBC Act, had approved the project. We had all the major state approvals and permits. or all the major state approvals. So we had a project, pardon me, that was a project that was able to be built. As a consequence of the decision that the Minister made in August last year over declaring an area of the site, specifically the tailings dam facility or the tailings storage facility, that meant that as the project was approved and as it was ready to go, was just not buildable. We had to write the money off and we had to withdraw the declaration of reserves. We are now, we're undertaking a two-prong approach to getting ourselves into a position where we can get back in and get that mine approved. We're pursuing a judicial review of the decision and the decision-making process, and we should get that hearing in December. And we're starting to try and think of ways that we might be able to find alternative locations or methods of storing the tails. Unlike the Minister made a comment last year when the decision was made that it was very easy, it actually is many, many years of work and research and field investigations that have to go into it. So we will pursue both angles. Unfortunately, what I don't know at this time is just how many years it will take us to find an alternative location for those tailings, if at all, assuming. But I think at the time I said it could be somewhere between 5 and 10 years to find an alternative. I still believe that's the case.
Are the problems the company encountered with this project, and specifically the approvals, something the government's reform roundtable should be wrestling with when it meets in a couple of weeks?
Well, look, I'm not sure of what the full scope of the reform roundtable is, but I think the government needs to be considering the elements of the approvals process that gives industry confidence. If there's one thing that industry doesn't appreciate, it's uncertainty and a lack of clarity. And unfortunately, our circumstances at McPhillamys sort of highlighted that, and I think that is definitely something that government needs to be considering as to how to remove that uncertainty.
We touched on the gold price at the start of this interview. Can't let you go without asking for a forecast of where that price is headed.
I don't know. I would like to think that it's an interesting question, because to see the gold price continue to firm, there is enough uncertainty, as I mentioned before, that's going on around the world, both financially and geopolitically, to keep upward pressure on it. I think that there's probably more to keep upward pressure than to push downward. So I would be surprised if the gold price certainly isn't where it is, or a few $100s higher than this in 6 to 12 months' time. I mean, I can't, just look at how much it's increased in the last 12 months. So I think there's plenty of opportunity in gold still to come.
Jim Beyer, thank you.
No worries, thank you, Kirsten.